The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator, host, co-host, and guest, and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, or opinions of the listener. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, I'm Melanie. Welcome to Explain Strange podcast. Curiosity drives us to explore the unknown. On Explain Strange, we'll investigate the bizarre, the unexplained, and the settling. And the strange, of course, the super weird. I'm there to talk about it. From paranormal encounters to urban legends and the mysterious, we question the strange and the spooky. So, join me, won't you? Today, it's just me. We had some technical difficulties since we started this because of that hurricane that swept through, and we are still thinking of all of you that have missing loved ones out there. It's a very tragic and sad thing. But have you ever thought someone was controlling all of this? Like life in general? Like, have you ever played a game called The Sims? Let's talk about simulation theory, people. Join me. Okay, so for a simulated reality to operate, this can be carried out through one of two notable ways. Number one, everything we know is simulated. The first scenario, this assumes that everything that exists, including every person, environment, object, occurrence, and sensation, is a byproduct of code. This scenario would require hardware powerful enough to simulate all of these components and known physics on a highly detailed intergalactic scale. Reality in this sense may be imagined as an elaborate open-world program that is running on a supercomputer or a quantum computer beyond our capable of understanding. So that's like everything we know is simulated. The world we know is simulated is scenario 2. This assumes humans themselves are real and organic, but that the world and the number of people that surround us are simulated. To carry this out, we would have to trick our consciousness into thinking that we are in true reality, in which all sensations feel lifelike, and simulated characters mimic humans that are able to pass the Turing test. Along with powerful computing hardware, this scenario would also require artificial intelligence, complex enough to perceive as real by the human mind. Simulation theory in this scenario can be illustrated by the movie The Matrix. The film depicts a post-apocalyptic world in which a race of machines have captured most of humanity and imprisoned their minds within an artificial reality known as the Matrix, in order to harvest human body heat and electrochemical energy. In this film, humans going about their everyday lives didn't realize that they were actually living in a simulation, because a cable plugged into their back of their heads, beaming signals into their neurons in their brains and reading their reactions. In some ways to achieve this, that could be through advanced virtual reality, a brain-computer interface, a BCI technology, where VR could display realistic imaginary for users, or BCIs could send signals to the brain to simulate realistic sensory inputs like sight. As for achieving other realistic human characteristics, we would need to gain a greater understanding of human consciousness and how it works so we can produce conscious AI. Interesting, don't you think? Don't you think? So, arguments for simulation theory, the multiverse and the virtual universes. So, that if humans are capable to survive thousands of years to reach a post-human state, one in which we have acquired most of technical knowledge's capabilities, consistent with physical laws and material and energy constraints, it's likely they would have the capabilities to run like ancestral simulations. In a post-human civilization, it proposes that machines running simulations could be stacked on top of each other, and that in a simulated machine could simulate another machine. This makes for a possible of multiple levels of reality, where the number of likelihood of simulated realities could just go on and on, like, that Marvel stuff with the multiverse. So, technological limits are yet to be discovered. So, simulated theory? Okay, so here's a little article I found I wanted to read you guys. In 2016, during the 17th annual Isaac Panel Debate at New York's American Museum of Natural History, simulation theory was discussed by a panel of scientific experts that included Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't know if you know who he is, but okay. Very smart dude. Randall, this group Randall had, Randall was the doubter. So there was a guy named Randall who was a doubter. Although she's allowed for the possibility that nothing is what it seems, including the cognitive process of observation, she has also wondered about the judgment of our supposed simulators in choosing mankind for their grand experiment. That's interesting, honestly. So, this post-human simulator, that would require a lot of power. You know, I don't really see that being a possibility if it was like computers. What if it's like one consciousness? You know what I mean? That's something to be explored. Let me know in the comments what you think about these scientific terms about simulation theory. But it's like tampering with like everything that we know, right? Like, seriously. Is the simulation the end? Just as present-day researchers use simulations to digitally create scenarios to aid scientific study, such as what would happen if we eliminated mosquitoes, for instance. Our world and every moment of our past existence might be simulated experiment of future humans. Just as science can terminate simulations, like with earthquakes and weather, like hurricanes, when they no longer provide useful data, it's so too can our hypothetical overlords pull the plug on us at any time without any warning? You bet they probably could. It's something to think about, but don't think too much about it. You might like freak yourself out. Don't freak yourself out, okay? All right. So why does this matter? Because here at this podcast, we question the strange. And isn't it strange to think about that someone's making me tell you this right now? So, if we all do live in a simulation, why does any of this matter, right? What is the purpose of proving or disproving that life as we know it is merely a digital construct and existence simply a complex experiment in someone's virtual terrarium? The broad answer is, which is like truth, more specifically our truth. If we do in fact exist inside a video game that requires our characters to perform certain quests and achievements in order to progress, wouldn't it be useful to know what kind of game that we're going to increase our chances of surviving and thriving? You know what I mean? Like, why is like bad things happening? Why can't we make good things happen? I don't know what that noise was. Y'all, it's Halloween, right? My house is haunted. It is. But that might be my cat trying to knock on the door. If you hear that, I apologize. Anyway. I think it would make all the difference in the world, whatever type of world this is, that we do good and not bad with the simulation theory. Right? I think so. So, now we're going to talk about what types of simulation theories there is in today's reality. And then I'm going to tell you my own personal story where I thought I was living in a simulation once. Okay. Most certainly, at least the possibility of post-human beings is there. There's a possibility, right? Okay. So we all know about the Mandela effect, right? I hope you do. If not, here's a brief little history on the Mandela effect. Some people claim to remember the TV coverage of Nelson Mandela's death in the 1980s, even though he actually died in 2013. Okay? If you didn't know about that, take that in for a second. He didn't die in the 80s. He died in 2013. The Mandela effect is therefore supposedly proof that whoever is in charge of our simulation is changing things. Or have we switched into different universes in 2012? Remember when the Mayan calendar said that the world was going to end? Remember that? maybe it didn't. And we had to switch into a different reality. And things are just kind of clashing, like misremembering little things, very little things, right? This is evidence of parallel universes, and some individuals have crossed from one universe in which Mandela died in the 80s into ours, where he lived to the age of 95. Additional examples of this phenomenon include some remembering the name of the Berenstain Bears into the children's books being Berenstein. This argument has been going on so long, I can't remember which one was my childhood because they both sound right. But I think it was Berenstein Bears. Maybe Berenstain. I think it was Berenstain. Okay, and the 1990s movie Shazam, starring Sinbad the comedian as a genie, I swear I saw that. I swear I saw that movie and it doesn't exist. So, make it make sense. Okay, type 2, missing aliens. We've seen billions sending probes through the outer space and should probably have found evidence of extraterrestrials by now, right? Whoa, not so fast. Aliens would likely be far more technologically advanced than we are. The thinking goes so that the fact that we haven't located them suggests we live in a simulation they've figured out how to escape from. Or maybe the computer we're in only has enough RAM to simulate one planetary civilization at a time. Like The Sims. Okay. Type 3, electrons that can't make up their minds. So, photosensitive screens, like in a copper plate, usually producing an interference pattern that indicate wave-like behavior. But when the same experiment is conducted under observation, electrons have behaved like particles, not waves. And there's no interference pattern. Some have taken this to mean our simulation is conserving its resources and rendering certain things only when it knows when we're looking at them. Take that one in. Number 4. DNA contains a computer virus. In 2017, the multidisciplinary group of researchers at the University of Washington proved that they could embed malicious computer code into physical strands of DNA. Their aim was to slow the computers working in the gene sequences, and they were vulnerable to attack. But they also have inadvertently revealed that we perceive to be biological realities was, in fact, a computer code all along. Wow. So, number 5. Climate change. Our civilization is just coincidentally set on the cusp of environmental chaos, suggesting that we could be an ancestor simulation created in hopes that we'd show our creators how to solve the energy crisis. This theory overlaps slightly with aliens as simulation quitters above theory. If we found an innovative solution to climate crisis, extraterrestrial beings might return to the crib in the result. Number 6 is The Sims. Okay. Video games that look like real life. So, Elon Musk is a believer in Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis, which posits that if humanity can survive long enough to create technology capable of running convincing simulations of reality, it will create many such simulations, and therefore will be lots of simulated realities, but only one base reality. So it's probably more like we live in a simulation right now. Further proof that we live in the Matrix, according to Musk, is how cool video games are these days. In 2016, he explained, 40 years ago we had Pong, 2 rectangles and a dot. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3Ds with millions playing simultaneously. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. Even if the rate of advance drops by 1,000 from what it is now, it is given that we're clearly on a trajectory that we are going to have games that are indistinguishable from reality. It would seem to follow that the odds we're all in a base reality is 1 in 2017 Oscars the mix-up, and that year, the 25-point Super Bowl comeback. I mean, we could be in a malfunctioning simulation, maybe? Or maybe we got a virus. Who knows? Okay. Number 8, quirks with computer code. Seemingly not crazy, theoretically, physicist James Gates claims that he has identified what appears to be actual computer code embedded in equations of string theory. He found the error-correcting codes that they're what make web browsers work, right? So why are they in the equation? Number 9. Why does our universe have rules in the first place? Question it, make it make sense. If I were a character in a computer game, I would also discover eventually that the rules seem completely rigid and mathematical. I would think so. I would break that fourth wall. Let me know in the comments if you would break the fourth wall if you was in The Sims. Am I breaking the fourth wall right now by talking about it? Interesting. It's not actually possible to prove we're not living in a situation. It may be easier to prove that we're living in a simulation than to prove we're not. Okay. I mean, if you're not going to get the proof that we're not in a simulation, because any evidence that we get could be simulated. This gets deep, doesn't it? Like, the more you think about it, the weirder it gets. I promise you that. Okay, so number 11. The Goldilocks zone. Earth exists within what they call a Goldilocks zone, close enough to a star that greenhouse gases can trap heat and keep liquid water, but far away enough that the planet does not become a hothouse. That we live in such an orbital sweet spot in the universe. Evidence of the simulation. Boom. Number 12. It makes more sense than ghosts. Now, listen. I love ghost hunting, okay? So, in my opinion, they both make sense. But this article says that paranormal events are not hauntings or alien encounters, but glitches in the simulation. This theory is one that is most explored on Reddit forums, such as We Are Living in a Simulation and Glitch in the Matrix, where users explore big ideas and philosophy funneled into details of odd or the occult. A storefront exists in the town one day, then it doesn't the next. Explanations include slips between parallel timelines or a pop-up. Our car passenger sees the word render in the sky as if entering a new part of a video game. Elevators are frequently setting for glitch stories, okay? That's a rabbit hole on its own. Look that up. Elevators, glitch stories. Number 13. We already know what the bricks of our matrix are. According to simulation believers, we may have already found the pixel-sized building block of the universe, to point at which our concepts of gravity and space-time no longer apply. If our world is simulated, this would be equivalent to one bit of information or one pixel. Wait till my stories, you guys. They're coming up after 2 more explanations of a simulation. Number 14. We're already good at making simulations and we're getting even better. Just like Elon Musk said. Okay? The Sims video game franchise has sold over 125 million copies in its first decade, shows that we're interested in playing with simulations too. Even when our future version of humanity finds themselves with the ability to create more realistic simulations, it wouldn't be a surprise if they opted it to use. Okay. I also want you guys to look this up, okay? Go to YouTube and type in Yanny, Y-A-N-N-Y versus Laurel. And tell me what you hear in the comments. Remember back in 2015 when the world flipped out because we all looked at that dress? Was it gold or blue? The Yanny and Laurel fiasco in 2018. Okay? Say what you will about pitch and volume. I mean, every time I hear it, it changes. Like it'll start to say Yanny and then it'll say Laurel. And sometimes I'll hear Laurel first and they'll say Yanny. What's up with that? You let me know in the comments what you hear, okay? Yanny or Laurel. Okay, so I have a couple of stories for you about the times I have thought I was in a simulation, like those glitch stories. Well, I have two. One happened in 2020, and in your part of the world, when you see snow, let me know in the comments, okay? You guys, I have homework for you, so let me know in the comments about this too. When you see snow, are all the snowflakes different, right? That's what we were growing up to know, that snowflakes are different because they're snowflakes. They don't all look the same. Well, there was one day it was snowing. It was, I believe, January of 2020, right before, you know, and it was snowing. But the snow, it looked like toothpicks, like little toothpicks, maybe an inch or two long, maybe not 2 inches, maybe an inch. Yeah, they looked like toothpicks. And at the time I didn't have my phone on me because we were just running to the store and then running back home. We just needed to grab a couple of things. By the time I got home, it all melted. That's the thing. I couldn't even take a picture of it, but my husband was there. My partner, John, he was there. So he remembers that. He was also with me the second time I saw a glitch or something. It was weird. It was right before sunset, and it was last summer. We were driving our ex-girlfriend, back home from a Walmart shopping trip, and I think we were both looking in the same direction in the sky because we both saw it. Our friend in the back seat there, she didn't see it because she was texting her family member to tell him to help her bring in the groceries because we were almost at her house. I remember that. We were almost at her house. And we looked up in the sky. We were driving, and it looked like a pixel burnt out in the sky. Like a little tiny square in the sky. And it was like almost green in color, like a bright green. It looked like, when a pixel burns out in your screen on your TV. That's exactly what it looked like. A pixel blipped. And it was just a little blip. And when we posted at the same time, what was that? And the girl in the back seat was like, what was what? So she didn't see it. So you tell me, make it make sense. Make any of this make sense, But be kind, though. Let's have a adult conversation about it. No rude comments, okay? Because that's why we have a disclaimer, people, okay? That's why we have a disclaimer. Okay, so this is going to wrap up my first solo episode on Explain Strange podcast. So thanks for joining me today on Explain Strange podcast. The strange is out there, and we're here to question it all. Join us next time for more unexplained mysteries and unsettling phenomena. And always remember to stay spooky.